November arrives on the banks of beautiful River Krishna with spectacular blossoms of the Indian willow tree. The bloom reminds us of the verse by Wang Wei. Walking on willow tree roads by a river dappled with peach blossoms, I look for spring light but am everywhere lost. Birds fly up and scatter floating catkins. A ponderous wave of flowers sag the branches. The Indian willow trees are denizens of turbulent rivers emanating from mountainous terrain of the Western Ghats. The rivers, leaping through amazing waterfalls, widen and slow down, meandering over shingles towards the easterly journey. Indeed, the ethereal beauty of salix trees can never be admired sans the willow trees on their banks. Indian willow, Salix tetrasperma of Salicaceae family. A tall deciduous riparian tree distributed all over India. The Marathi name Walunj refers to the habitat in river sand, Walu. The names in other Indian languages also refer to the riverine habitat. The other names include Panijama in Bengali, Bains in Hindi, Neer Anji in Kannada, and Attupala in Malayalam. The Sanskrit name is Jalavetas. Salix genus world over has about 500 species, out of which 33 are found in India. Many of these willow species are low shrubs found in the Himalayan foothills from Kashmir to Arunachal Pradesh. Weeping willow, Salix babylonica, is the most cherished species in Europe, though it hails from China. White willow or Salix alba is another garden favorite all over the world. The lakes at Himalayan foothills are lined with Indian willows. This is the iconic Indian willow tree on the legendary river Krishna that we have named Bishma. He proudly stands towering above the rest, looking over Krishna. He has been a witness to all the changes on the banks. Salix barks and leaves are used in traditional remedies on various disorders. In northeast India, salix leaves and flower spikes are eaten as a food delicacy. The Indian willow grows to a height of 10 to 20 meters. The branches are slender and erect, unlike the trailing branches in weeping willows. The canopy is irregular and thin. Indian willow bark has deep vertical furrows in it. The trunk may reach to a meter in width and the bole is usually straight. The bark is dark brown when young and turns lighter as it matures. The roots of the Indian willow spread around to a distance of 3 to 5 meters and even reach the rocky bottom of the river. Thus, Indian willow ensures a support which is mutually firm both for the tree as well as for the river bank. The root spread remains exposed when the topsoil gets washed off in floods. Indian willow tree is probably the only tree that survives on the river banks since the roots are firmly embedded in the river bed and the stem is extremely tough to withstand floods. No wonder cricket bats are made from the light and tough willow wood. The flared roots protect the banks from erosion and avoid silting of water bodies downstream. The submerged roots have a unique ability to absorb heavy metals contained in the polluted river water. This vital phytoremedial aspect of the willow tree has unfortunately not yet caught the attention of the ecologists and foresters. Salix trees bear unisexual male and female flowers on different trees, unlike most other trees, wherein flowers have both sexual organs present in a single flower. This character distinguishes salix trees in male and female genders. Surprisingly, the female trees are much fewer than the male trees. Leaves of female salix are smaller than the male trees. The leaves fall off during the rainy season, giving a lifeless broom-like appearance to the trees. Flowering of Indian willow begins in early November, contemporary with young leaves. It is a grand show on rivers when all the willow trees burst into yellow flowers simultaneously. Young yellowish leaves add to the glory of the bloom. The spectacle is as beautiful as the Japanese cherry blossom. A divine fragrance fills the air on the river. Willow flowers are borne on spikes known as catkins, an inflorescence akin to a cat's tail. Both male and female catkins are about 10 centimeters long. Male flowers are arranged on stalks along the slender axis. A bundle of stamens has the pollens attached on their tips. Nectar glands are placed at the base of flower stalks. Both male and female flowers do not bear any petals. Bees play a vital role in pollination of willow flowers. When a bee lands on a male willow flower, it struggles to collect nectar from the flower's nectar glands. As the bee moves over the flowers, it brushes its body against the stamens. The pollen gets attached to the bee's hairy body. This completes the former part of the pollination process. The Indian honey bee, Apis cerana, is the most commonly found honeybee on the Indian willow blossoms. Bee-eaters follow the bees and feast on them as they move between the flowering branches. Wagtails are typical riverbank companions for salix trees. They search for insects on the carpet of fallen dry catkins. Female salix flower consists of just an urn-shaped ovary with a lobed receptive stigma at the apex. The female flower has a pair of yellow glands on the stalk that offer nectar to the bees. Bees arriving on female catkins after visiting the male catkins bring pollens on their bodies. As they try to reach the nectar glands placed below the ovary, the pollen gets transferred to the active stigma and the latter part of pollination process gets completed. Female catkins bloom a little ahead of male catkins. The pollen also flies with the wind to land on the female flowers. The fragrance and nectar would not have been necessary if willow flowers were to be just wind pollinated. On successful pollination, each female flower produces a 5 mm long capsule which holds 4 seeds. On maturity, the capsule splits up in 2 halves. Flowers which do not get fertilized turn brown and fall off. The specific name for salix, tetrasperma, suggests that there are 4 seeds in a capsule. Tetra means 4 and sperma means seeds. The tiny seeds bear silky floss for the dispersal on air or water. The seed is elongate in shape and is about 3 millimeters long. It has 4 ridges. In the capsule, the seeds are covered with compact silky floss which becomes fluffy as it gets released from the capsule. Wind blows the silky floss, and the seeds embedded in the floss travel on air and water for dispersal. As willows grow on the banks of rivers, water plays an important role in the seed dispersal, carrying the seeds downstream where they can germinate into saplings. However, natural germination of salix seeds along riverbanks is seen to be a failure, maybe due to environmental degradation of banks and water pollution. Salix trees seen on rivers are mostly male trees grown by inserting stumps in wet river banks. Langurs are wasteful feeders that frequent the Indian willow trees. They feast on flowers and young leaves. Langurs tend to drop more than they eat, sometimes giving rise to symbiotic relationships with other leaf-eating animals. Cattle, deer, and wild boars get to forage on the fallen willow leaves and flowers. Tits and ioras keep searching behind salix leaves for insects. It is the feasting time for birds when the common leopard butterflies lay eggs on young salix leaves. The eggs are smaller than a mustard seed. Leopard butterflies have been known to prefer trees of Salicaceae family as host plants. Tiny eggs turn into larvae and caterpillars that feed on young leaves. Juicy caterpillars hibernate in a pupa on salix branches. In a few weeks, the pupa transforms into a beautiful butterfly. Only a few leopard butterfly caterpillars survive to transform into butterflies, as most fall to predation by either birds or other insects. The green stink bugs are often seen in clusters on salix branches. They wear apple green and silver colors that merge with the salix leaves. They feed on the juice from tender salix leaves. Well-rounded cuts are often seen on young salix leaves. These cuts are different than those made by the butterfly caterpillars. These circular cuts on the leaves are the work of the leaf cutter bees. Common leaf cutter bee found on salix leaves is the woolly wall bee. The bee lands on the margin of the leaf and begins cutting the leaf with a pair of mandibles, one of them inserted behind the leaf. It turns around while cutting and curls the leaf segment into a cone with its legs. As the leaf segment detaches, the bee carries the cone to a nesting hole nearby and stacks leaf cones to form a cell to lay the eggs. Leafcutter bees are not harmful to the plants as they cut only small pieces of leaves. They are important pollinators and play a crucial role in the ecosystem. Salix tree has a plenty of food to offer for many life forms in nature. Bhishma, the salix on Krishna, does not mind his limbs pierced by the mistletoes and loranthus parasites. These plants grow abundantly on salix branches. Their flowers invite sunbirds and flower peckers to forage on flower nectar and berries. The juice in salix branches is so aplenty that even parasitic viscum is seen growing on another Loranthus parasite. Water birds are seen taking shelter beneath salix groves. This association is an indicator of a healthy environment. Mature leaves of salix are narrowly elliptic, 10 to 15 centimeters long, and have a pointed apex. They have toothed margins and the underside of the leaves is silvery. The leaves, shining with the silver luster, seem to take on a life of their own as they swirl and eddy in the wind. From a distance, they look like a shimmering curtain billowing in the breeze. Up close, each individual leaf can be seen flashing and reflecting light in 1,000 different ways. The sight is mesmerizing with its beauty and grace. It looks as if the leaves are performing a dance in celebration of life and the changing season. The population of this Saviour tree along urban riverfronts is in severe decline, the main reason being lack of natural regeneration. Nevertheless, not many could have survived in the present urban sewage flooding the rivers. There are a few survivors in cities who mourn the loss of their companions on once pristine rivers. Despite female trees producing abundant seeds, the natural regeneration is very poor. Most seeds on female trees are found to be sterile. Saplings can, however, be produced from cuttings. The process involves clipping 1 centimeter thick mature branches from a mother tree and cutting them to about 30 centimeters in length. The cuttings are applied with root-promoting hormone like humic acid. Fungicide should be used on the cuttings. The success rate in sprouting is fair, but a special attention needs to be given to identifying female trees and sprouting cuttings of female trees. Grafting of female branches onto male trees has not been successful. Considering the environmental benefits, a large-scale plantation needs to be undertaken as a social forestry project. The irrigation department and urban landscapers must consider this easy bioremedy for soil erosion control and riverfront beautification. Aesthetically, the Indian willow tree pleases the eye with its form, foliage, flowers, and fragrance. A rich ecosystem of birds, insects, and associated plants can be seen around salix trees. Let us offer our iconic Bishma tree a special heritage status and a vigil to protect it. Let our future generations eternally greet this Pitamaha on River Krishna. Let us also pledge to offer him more companion salix trees. Let us restore the ethereal beauty of the bygone era on River Krishna. Bhishma will live happily as long as Krishna flows, because the water ripples are Krishna's pulse. A poem, The River and the Willow Tree, describes the fond relationship between the two. First there was the river, and the river was strong, and it flowed through the fertile land. And time went on and the river ran. Then came the people, and people drank the cool water, and bathed in the shallows, and hung their wash by the silty shore. And the river was happy, and so it ran. Then came the boats, the canoes, the barges, the skiffs, carrying the people's things, and the river felt useful, and so it ran. Then came the trash and the runoff and the pollution and the things that moved on wheels and rails, and the river felt lonely, but still it ran. Then the people forgot that they needed the river, forgot they needed its power, forgot they needed its peace. And the earth from which it was born, and the river began to die. And then there was a tree, a willow tree, first a seedling, then a sapling, then a sturdy trunk with branches that grew over, and roots that grew below. And the tree grew strong, and the tree made the river strong, and the river felt hope. And so still the river ran. And the people remembered, and they cleaned and they cared, and they splashed in the river's cool waters, and they sat under the tree's shade. And together the people, the tree, and the river built something better, stronger, and lasting. And the river felt peace, and so it ran. And the world turned, and the people stayed, and the tree grew, and the river ran, and the river ran.